Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, like I always say, welcome to the channel. Today is Friday, July 5th, 2024. I hope that you're all doing well and that you all had a safe and happy and fun 4th of July holiday. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing my experience of the Foundation Fighting Blindness Visions Conference. And before I start, I just want you to know that this is going to be a very long video and it's going to be somewhat detailed. There's a lot to cover, and I'm going to break it down into two sections, one video, but two different distinct sections. The first is going to be a sequential overview of of what I did at the conference, and then the second part of the video, I'm going to share some of my key takeaways and what had the things that really impacted me the most at the conference. So I'm going to jump right into it. So the conference started on Thursday, technically started on Thursday, June 20th. And the first official thing that I attended at the conference was a social media training on Thursday evening that was directed towards chapter leaders, and being the president of the Pittsburgh chapter, I was invited to attend this. And it was fun. It was really fun to network and talk to fellow chapter leaders from other chapters, as well as staff at the Foundation Fighting Blindness. And the social media training was really cool too. They gave us some tips and pointers, mainly on how to effectively share the posts that the foundation posts primarily on LinkedIn and Facebook and other Instagram and other social media platforms. So it was informative that way. I knew a lot of what was covered before the training, but it was they did show us some tips and tricks that are definitely going to help me more effectively share things that I'm already sharing for the foundation. So it was all around um, a good training, a good uh, networking event, good social event. And then after that, my good friend Jessie Walensky, who's in the San Francisco chapter, she's the VP of the San Francisco chapter. She and I and a couple other folks went to the bar and had some drinks, and then that was pretty much it for Thursday. It was a pretty short day. Friday is when the conference was the first full day of the conference. It was full of events and seminars and sessions to attend. Of course, it started with breakfast, and breakfast was very good. And then we had a welcome like a welcome session that was headed by Jason Menzo, the CEO. And then following breakfast, we had our first big session, which was a technology session. And we had three panelists on the stage that discussed technology, different aspects of technology and its impact on their lives. One gentleman was an entrepreneur in the tech space. Uh, One of the other panelists was a lady who is the founder of her own tech company. She created an app for people with visual impairments. And then another gentleman was an engineer by trade who left his job as an engineer to start a nonprofit staffing agency for individuals with disabilities. So it was very cool, very enlightening discussion that they had up there. And that was the first big session. That was the only thing that went on during that hour. And just about everybody who was at the conference, all 500 people or so, or most of them, attended that session. The following block of time, the following hour and a half, there were five or so options of different sessions to attend during that block. And my mom and I chose to attend the stem cell session. And the reason why I decided to attend the stem cell session, where they talked about research and breakthroughs, is because I don't know as much about the research and the developments within stem cells as I do about gene therapies and other types of different options and things that are being worked on. And the other reason is that stem cell solutions are what are called gene agnostic solutions, which means that the the injection of stem cells, or however those stem cells are delivered, can the hope is that they will treat your retinal disease, such as retinitis pigmentosa or Stargard's or Usher syndrome, with without it could treat the condition without targeting a specific gene defect, because there's about 280 genes that can defect to lead to a inherited retinal disease, and stem cells eliminate the problem of having to identify certain genes and correct those genes. They can just be a blanket solution um, to the problem, which is how I understand it. And a disclaimer, I'm not a medical professional or a scientific professional by any means. This is just my perception of what was discussed and how it was discussed as a very non-scientific layperson. So, but it was a very informative session. Stem cells are not the stem cell research isn't as advanced as the gene therapy stuff is, but it's still very promising stuff, mainly for that gene agnostic approach, and it's just a very different type of solution than the gene therapy stuff. So the more solutions we'll have available in the future, definitely the better. So that was that session. And then my dad attended a gene therapy session. And like I said, gene therapy, I know more about gene therapy than I do about the stem cell stuff. And he, spoke to us a little bit about what that entailed. But we'll, for the sake of time, we'll skip over to the next session, which was actually lunch. And during lunch, we sat with a really nice table. We sat with some representatives from Delta Gamma, and that's a sorority Greek organization that volunteers at most or all of the vision walks throughout the country. And so that's why they had representatives there. They're just a very prominent volunteer organization within the foundation that help and collaborate with the foundation fighting blindness. So it was cool to connect with some of the folks from that organization. And during lunch, we had David Brent, the chairman of the board of the Foundation Fighting Blindness, gave some remarks because he actually was stepping down at the end of June as the chairman of the board, retiring. And he gave us a reflection on his 8 years as the chairman. And after that, we watched a very, very powerful, emotional video of a compilation of people discussing at the foundation and in his personal life, discussing what he and his work has meant to them over the last 8 years, plus the many years he has been on the board and involved with the FFB before becoming chairman. So it was a very, very emotional, probably like 5-minute video or so, and it was just really, really incredible to see what this man has done with and for the Foundation Fighting Blindness. So congratulations to David on your retirement, and I'm sure we will be still seeing you around on the board and in whatever capacity. So after David spoke, we had the keynote speaker, Sam, from Procter & Gamble. Now, Sam is blind from retinitis pigmentosa. She went blind when she was about 16, and she's now the head of accessibility for Procter & Gamble. And she's an ethnic Pakistani, born and raised in Scotland. So she had this really thick, beautiful Scottish accent, and she's now living in England, I believe, working at Procter & Gamble. And the really the key takeaways from her talk were that she struggled in her teenage and early 20s years to get started sort of in life. She had a job search after college that wasn't going very well, and she literally and figuratively ran into the right person at the right time at a job fair, and this man gave her a job. He owned a large chain of car dealerships over in England, or Scotland, England, I think Scotland, and he gave her a job there, and she eventually ended up at Procter & Gamble, and 7 promotions later, she became, like I said, the head of accessibility for Procter & Gamble, and she has spearheaded the effort at Procter & Gamble to put tactile indicators on all of their products for folks to, blind and visually impaired folks, to be able to identify the products with their hands, to know what the difference between shampoo and conditioner and different products. And she spearheaded that effort, and now leads the whole department, accessibility department there at Procter and Gamble. So really the big takeaway that I got from that talk, that she really tried to drive home and did very, very effectively, was that there are people in this world that have a lot of influence, and when those people can look at someone who has challenges and see the potential in them and give them that first chance, they can totally change the trajectory of that person's life. And she said that we all have the power in our own lives to either enable people or disable people, and it's up to us every single day to choose whether we're going to enable the people in our lives or disable the people in our lives. And it was a very, very powerful speech. The next session, the next block of time, we could choose again between like 4 or 5 other sessions, and I chose to attend, and my parents did as well, to attend the gene agnostic session, which, similarly to the stem cell session, I attended because I want to hear more about gene agnostic approaches. And the speakers at this session were folks from a company that are working on a gene agnostic approach to inherited retinal diseases. And I can't really go too much into the science there, but that's what we did for that hour and a half or so. After that, we went into the exhibition hall, where I reconnected with my friends over at Johnson & Johnson that I spoke to back in April, and they actually interviewed me at the conference about why I'm at the conference and a little bit about my experience with vision loss. So it was really great to be able to be asked and to be able to give them that interview, and also just to have nice conversations with the folks there again, and spend some time just walking around the exhibition hall and talking to different representatives from different nonprofits and pharmaceutical companies and organizations. And I actually met Brad Manning, the older of the 2 blind brothers, and had a great conversation with him. And he's a really nice guy, and we probably spoke for like 5 or 10 minutes just about stuff, vision loss, my involvement with the Pittsburgh chapter, and just, you know, had a good chat. So we spent some time in that hall, exhibit hall, just seeing what there was to see, hearing what people had to say. And then we had dinner, and then after dinner I had a lot of really great conversations with folks from all over the country. A couple folks came up to me, and we just spoke and talked about our experiences, gave each other some tricks and pointers, and vented about things, and just had very good conversations, and hung out with my friend Jesse some more. And yeah, it was a good day. A pretty early night, turned in at about 9:30, much earlier than Thursday night, and went back to the hotel room and watched my cousin Vinny and went to bed. So Saturday, the second full day of the conference, woke up, had breakfast, another great breakfast, and then I actually skipped. You had an option between a bunch of different sessions in the morning again, but I actually skipped a session, and instead of oh, you know what? No. So after breakfast, there was a retinitis pigmentosa session that just had all of the latest research and breakthroughs about retinitis pigmentosa specifically. And then in other rooms, you could go to a similar session about Stargardt's disease, another one about Usher syndrome, another one about Leber's congenital amaurosis. But I chose the retinitis pigmentosa one because obviously I have retinitis pigmentosa. So I attended that with my parents, and there was some really cool things there. They talked about optogenetics, which is something that Dr. Sahel here in Pittsburgh is spearheading. He's one of the inventors of that technology, I believe. And the big thing there was they talked about optogenetics actually restoring vision in mice recently in a trial, with a mouse trial. And that's a huge breakthrough, which I'll get to. I'll talk about that stuff, that a little bit later in the video. but that was really exciting, and a couple other things about retinitis pigmentosa, research and breakthroughs. A little bit of talk about NAC attack, which is a gene therapy. No, it's not a gene therapy. It's a pharmaceutical drug that's being worked on over at Johns Hopkins that was talked about as well, which shows a lot of promise in slowing and maybe even stopping the progression of vision loss. So that was a great session. And after that, I went back to the exhibition hall because there were a lot more exhibitors that I wanted to speak to. And I didn't spend enough time 2 years ago at the last conference in the exhibit hall. So I skipped the next block of time. Instead of going to another session, I just went back to the exhibit hall and talked to folks and spent some time talking to FFB, Foundation Fighting Blindness staff at their tables, talked to some other nonprofits, other organizations, and just handed out a bunch of business cards, collected a bunch of business cards as well, some candy at some tables. It reminded me a lot of a job fair. So that was fun and very informative, and a great experience to just go in there and talk to folks. Then we had lunch, and during lunch we spoke to during lunch. Yeah, we had our lunch, and then we had a talk from the new incoming chair of the board, Karen Petro, and she started her tenure as chair of the board on July 1st. So congratulations to Karen. And she talked about her initiatives, and she's legally blind from retinitis pigmentosa. She is a managing partner at a financial organization that I believe she co-founded, and she's done a lot of really great work in Washington D.C. along with her late husband in trying to involve the federal government in our effort. And she really gave a fabulous 30-minute talk about what she has brought and will continue to bring to the foundation in an effort to save sight and prevent blindness. So again, congratulations to Karen. I'm looking forward to everything that you're going to accomplish here, and where things go over the next several years. Trying to remember, because I think I hope I didn't miss anything. Oh yeah, I did miss something. So Friday, I went to a fireside chat that David Brent, the chairman, did with a Judge Tatel, who has retinitis pigmentosa. He's been legally blind for several decades, and he was a appeals court judge in Washington D.C. for many decades. That was about a 30-minute session. It was very short on Friday evening, the first day of the conference, and it was just a cool thing to see someone with retinitis pigmentosa, make it achieve greatness within the public sector, as a public servant, and just to hear his perspective on things was very rewarding. So sorry that I missed that. Yeah, that was so short of a session, it kind of got swallowed up in the day. But back to Saturday. So after Karen's speech, after lunch, we spent more time in the exhibit hall, and then we had a big mental health session, and that panel consisted of two psychologists. The husband of one of so the two psychologists had retinitis pigmentosa. One of the psychologists had her husband up there with her, who's also like her caregiver, her sighted partner. And then another gentleman was up there who is the father and caretaker for his son that has Bardet-Biedl syndrome, which is a very rare inherited retinal disease that also comes with a bunch of different developmental problems. So they gave some tips and tricks about how to psychologically deal with some of these things. And really, the big takeaway from that I got that I can remember that I'm going to share with you now is the only thing that we can control is what we say and do in this moment. We can't control what happens to us. Um, we can't control anything other than what we say and do in this current moment. And I think that was a very, very powerful, uh, very powerful message and a very powerful tool. So that was a very popular session. That was the only session that occurred during that hour and a half. And then after that, we had the closing session, which is actually when Karen spoke, the new chair of the board. So I went out of order a little bit. Sorry about that. I'm doing this kind of all off the cuff. I knew it was going to be a raw video. So that's when Karen spoke, and that's when a couple other people spoke. And then after a couple of these talks at the closing ceremony, the closing session, they acknowledged 3 chapters that won what are called the Luli's Light Award. Now, Luli was the wife of Gordon Gund, and Gordon Gund was a co-founder of the Foundation Fighting Blindness. He went blind when he was about 30 from retinitis pigmentosa. He got together with the Berman family, whose daughters had retinitis pigmentosa, and they created the Foundation Fighting Blindness 53 years ago, and they're the reason that we were all there. You know, Gordon actually attended the Visions Conference the first day. He was there for lunch, and that was just to be in the same room with that man was just extremely humbling. Like, you just feel the energy coming from him. You could feel the energy coming from the people around him, and the energy from people's reaction to him. You know, it was just a very. I didn't meet him. I didn't get to meet him. But just being in the same room as him and seeing him at his table on the other side of the room was incredible. But he founded the Foundation Fighting Blindness, and his wife passed away maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and she was very dedicated to the chapters. The FFB has sort of two main volunteer departments. They have the events side of things, and then they have the chapter side of things. And there's staff on each side of those, and then there's volunteers on each side of those. And she was very interested in maintaining and growing the chapters across the United States. So these 3 awards are given every year. Starting 2 years ago, there were 3 awards given out each year. So 2 years ago, the San Francisco chapter, the Los Angeles chapter, and the Jacksonville chapters won these awards. And these awards are given to chapters that exemplify certain attributes that drive the chapter and ultimately the mission forward. And this year, I'm happy to say, and extremely humbled and extremely honored to say, that the Pittsburgh chapter was a winner of a Luli's Light Award for 2024. And I never imagined that we would have won this award. There are a lot of chapters out there. There's about 45 chapters in the United States. There are chapters out there that have been around much longer than us, that have raised much more money than we have, and are just out there absolutely killing it. And they have presidents that are just incredible people and dedicated people. And I am just so humbled to be the president of the Pittsburgh chapter and was asked to accept the award on behalf of the chapter. And just to be clear, this is not my award. This is the Pittsburgh chapter's award. This is our trust. We have a trustee in our chapter, a national trustee of the Foundation Fighting Blindness. Her name is Judy Kale, and she's also kind of our revenue chair for the chapter. This is her award, really, more than anybody's. She's done so much work in this chapter and has raised so much money through her DIY fundraisers and luncheons, and she spends dozens of hours a week on this cause. and she has Usher syndrome. She's almost 80 years old, and she is just one of the strongest fighters for this cause that I've ever met, and I've met a lot of them. And it's her award. It's every person who made a team for our vision walk this past year and contributed either by creating a team and raising money, or people that donated money to the vision walk, like the staff at the foundation who helped with the vision walk, Christy Wass, the Bailey Bostelman, everybody who had a hand in the Pittsburgh chapter over the past year and a half, from the vision walk to, like I said, DIY luncheons and fundraisers, to and anything that anybody has done to help the Pittsburgh chapter move forward financially and as far as outreach. You know, thank you to Michelle Allebeck, who's our education chair. Thank you again to Judy Kale. Thank you to my mom, who does so much to help me and to help Judy, and she just is here to do whatever anybody needs her to do. And to all of our friends and family who are helping to drive this forward. It's your award. It's our award. It's not mine. I'm just the president. I'm just here. I do what people ask me to do. I look for things. I try to come up with ideas, and I do whatever anybody needs me to do. But I'm just honored. It's the honor. Other than probably my bachelor's degree, this is like the honor of my life, and it's because of you, the Pittsburgh chapter. So it was a very incredible experience, and something that I'll remember for the rest of my life. So and then that was pretty much it. We left after that because we had to get back to Michigan before it got dark, because we drove. But yeah, that was my experience of the conference. And what I want to do now is I want to give you a couple of key takeaways from the conference. The first is that I was so inspired, and I have so much hope now, because this conference really focused and spoke about and put an emphasis on the idea of restoring vision, which is something that I don't remember hearing as much of in the past couple of years. So the emphasis on restoring vision, the fact that restoring vision is now at the forefront of the conversation, is like, it's always been the goal, but now we're talking about tangible results in clinical trials, current trials, upcoming therapies and studies that are focused on restoring vision and are starting to show efficacy in very early stages of research. And that is a game changer, because it's going to give people back a life that they have lost, parts of their life that they have lost from losing their vision. And it's going to give people like me, who've always been legally blind, who've never driven, who've always struggled visually, a chance to maybe have opportunities and experiences and a life that we have never had before. That's a big deal for me, because since I've been legally blind pretty much my whole life, I've not known any different. So maintaining the level of vision I have has always kind of been the priority for me in my mind. So the fact that like I never really thought about restorative, because I've like pretty much corrected for being legally blind. I haven't corrected for being totally blind yet, but I'm not totally blind yet, so we're not there yet. But I can't believe that we're talking about restorative vision now, or restoring vision now, because it's changed my perspective. It's changed sort of my own standard of what I want and what I strive for in assisting this organization. Of course, I always thought that it would be nice to have some of my vision restored, but it wasn't really at the forefront of my mind. It was always about maintaining my vision or ensuring that I don't lose all of it. But now it's like I am so pumped up about this now that it's like I don't know. I can't even explain to you. Like it just has changed my entire outlook on everything I do in a day. And and just this emphasis on restoring vision has just been really, really powerful. The other huge takeaway is that there was talk of eye transplants being possible in the not so distant future, probably pretty far down the road, but successful eye transplants, which would be a game changer not only for individuals like me and others with inherited retinal conditions, but really anybody, almost anybody who has lost their vision to an eye injury, like war veterans or people who've gotten into accidents at work or any other type of accident, people who've lost their vision to diabetes. That just really, I mean, it changes the game, not just for the 10 million or so people that have some sort of inherited retinal disease or macular degeneration, but for tens of millions of other people, tens and tens, maybe even hundreds of millions of other people in the world that have visual impairments for reasons that are outside of the inherited retinal disease family. So that's a huge breakthrough. There have been successful eye transplants from the standpoint that the body hasn't rejected the transplant. However, the eye doesn't see, but it does track and it does produce tears, but it doesn't see. So the breakthrough is that the body didn't reject it and that the eye functions from a mechanical standpoint, but it doesn't see yet. So the next stage of this is an eye transplant that works from the standpoint of the vision actually functioning in the eye, which would just be really incredible because that would be a be all end all for people who have lost all of their vision to these conditions and, like I said, to accidents and other factors outside of inherited retinal diseases. The other thing I want to talk about really quickly is how I was so stunned by the amount of people I spoke to, particularly on Friday, a little bit on Saturday too, that were at the conference that weren't involved in with the Foundation Fighting Blindness in an official capacity. Like they weren't a chapter leader. They weren't. They were just they were just people that had an inherited retinal disease, and their partner would be with them, their spouse or their partner or a friend, or they'd be by themselves, and they had a condition, and they were just there to check it all out. They heard about the conference, they paid the money to go, and they just went to check it all out. And I was really, really impressed with that because I don't think I would have ever attended these conferences if I wasn't involved in the FFB to the degree that I am. So I'm just very impressed by the initiative of these folks that came, and I some of the best conversations I've had with people with inherited retinal diseases were with these people that I met at the conference who were just checking things out. So that was another really big takeaway. I do want to shout out to the Foundation Fighting Blindness staff because I've known a lot of the staff for several years now through my involvement, but really just getting together with folks and hanging out and just hanging out in person is just really, and not just staff, but like other volunteers as well. Like I mentioned to Jesse Walensky a couple of times. She and I have been really good friends for the last at least 5 years, and a couple other folks that I met there and got to spend some time with there on the volunteer side as well as on the staff side. But this staff, man, I can't say enough about the staff at the Foundation Fighting Blindness. I mean, everybody, every single person at the Foundation Fighting Blindness, you guys are doing work that means more to me than I can even put into words. You guys could be doing literally anything else. You could be doing anything else. You could be working at another nonprofit for another cause. You could be working in corporate America. You could be starting your own business. You could be doing anything else, but you choose to help drive this mission forward. And because of that, we have hope. I have hope. My family has hope. Everybody has hope that there will be at least at least a slowing down of progression of these conditions, if not stopping the progression. And hopefully, based on the research and the things that we heard at the conference, cures and treatments that restore vision. Maybe not all of our vision, like Karen Petro said in her keynote, in her address on Saturday. She said, I don't need to read the bottom line of the eye chart. I just want to see the damn eye chart. And that's where a lot of people are. And you people who work at the Foundation Fighting Blindness, the staff, you guys aren't just saving sight. You guys are saving lives. You're saving lives. You're saving quality of life, and in some cases, you are saving people. Quite literally saving people's lives from the work that you're doing and the results that we as volunteers and you as staff are striving towards. So thank you to the staff from the bottom of my heart. You guys are absolute rock stars. I love you all, and I just can't put into words how much I appreciate what you're doing. So I think that's everything I wanted to say. I hope I didn't miss anything. I didn't want to look at notes. I didn't want to look at my phone. I wanted to be as straightforward as I possibly could. And as it's all kind of coming back to me now, I'm starting to get really emotional. But it took me. I wanted to do the video sooner, but it took me a couple weeks to really process everything. And I just I wish this conference was every year. I wish it was every year. It's unfortunate that we got to wait 2 more years to see each other again. But it's definitely been the highlight of my year, and I'm really happy that my parents got to attend the conference this year too, because they didn't attend the last one, because it was just something I did on my own. But I'm really glad that they got to attend too, and I feel like we all had a really good time together, and I learned a lot, they learned a lot, and yeah, just thank you to everybody who was involved in making that event so special, and everybody who makes this organization so special, and it's just an honor to be a part of it. So thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I know it was extremely long, but there was a lot to say, and I could have said more, but these are the highlights. And thank you again, everybody, for all that you do. Thank you, everybody, for watching this video, and I will see you all in the next video.